looking at the release from Par Capital as well as Altimeter Capital, the two hedge funds. They own 7.1% of United shares, and they say, we are not short-term traders, nor are we activists. Yeah, right, they're not activists. They are active right now in getting 6 people onto the United board. Those people would include former Continental CEO Gordon Bethune. Basically, what they believe is that United has not been well run, and there's not really many people who are going to argue that United has lagged its competitors. Its performance, generally speaking, over the last 5 years, regardless of the metrics that you look at, it has been underperforming relative to its competitors. By the way, what you're looking at there, those are members of a Teamsters union at United protesting outside the J.P. Morgan Transportation Conference today, where the CFO for United Airlines was giving a presentation to analysts. Here's Gordon Bethune earlier today talking with our David Faber about their belief, Altimeter and Par's belief, that United's management team has been woefully underperforming relative to the rest of the industry.
If you're in a horse race and you're in 4th place, you're not winning. And so on a relative basis, they've underperformed the market, and I believe the shareholders are not happy with having no airline expertise at the helm.
Well, the man at the helm of United Airlines is Oscar Munoz, and he has had a rocky 6 months, to say the least. Remember, for the last 3 months, essentially, he has really not been in charge of day-to-day operations because he had a heart transplant. He released a statement within the last hour saying they are nominating 6 director candidates, which we believe is designed to put their nominees in control of the board and our company's future. And again, he returns to day-to-day activities at United Airlines next Monday. Take a look at shares of United versus Southwest and Delta over the last 5 years. This says it all. Now, some people will look at this and they'll say, well, look, I mean, the shares have more than doubled in the last 5 years. Compare it with Delta. Delta's up more than 300%. And again, almost any metric you look at over the last 5 years, they have not been doing well.
Phil, the timing on this smells suspicious to me because it was just yesterday that the company decided they were going to put on their own board of directors.
And increase the board of directors.
Right, which to me looks like a move by them to stem off the activists.
Absolutely.
And get out in front of them.
Well, they've been talking. It's not as though Par and Altimeter have not been in discussions with the board of directors. It finally has hit the point. Clearly, the board said, well, let's increase the size to 15 directors. And that makes it much more difficult for them to take control of the board.
Phil, don't move. We're going to bring in Seth Kaplan, who is managing director of Airline Weekly, writes extensively about these issues. Phil, what do you make of all this, and particularly Gordon Bethune, who's been so involved in the airline industry for a long time now, and actually the placement of various CEOs?
Yeah, there are some interesting personalities involved here. You know, when you look at that slate that is, Phil said just yesterday, United's board added the 3 new directors, Jim Whitehurst among them. He was an executive at Delta back almost a decade ago, and there was a period of time where right before Delta's current and soon to retire CEO was hired rather to be CEO, Gordon Bethune was actually advising Delta's board and advised them against making Jim Whitehurst CEO. He told me that in an interview a few years ago. And so there's, you know, some interesting dynamics there going back a long way. And so, yeah, Bethune, who, by the way, his protege, you might remember last fall, Jeff Smizek, who was replaced by Oscar Munoz. All kinds of dynamics here. Almost, as Phil mentioned, with these new directors, almost reminds you of when Franklin Delano Roosevelt back in the 1930s didn't like what was happening at the Supreme Court. He tried to add new justices to make it more friendly.
Yes, in the 1930s is a good reference because it was probably the last year that there was an on-time flight in or out of Newark Airport also, by the way, and most of that is United. You can see his little personal rage coming through here, Seth. But what can they do, actually? I'll defend United a bit. What actually can the board fix?
Well, that's the big question, Brian. You know, we ran a cover story last fall, actually, when they appointed Munoz. We called it the jockey or the horse, question mark. Basically, the question being, and that's a reference, by the way, that Bethune has used over the years, you know, if a horse isn't running correctly, you know, do you have a slow horse or do you have, as Bethune has said, you know, a fat jockey on the horse who's slowing it down? Because United has been, and I mean, it's true what these hedge funds are saying, an underperformer, but that goes back, you know, 35 years. American and Delta both at various times have led the industry for a sustained period financially. United never really has among the airlines that survived deregulation. So, you know, is it this board's fault, this management team's fault, or is there just something
What's the answer to the question? You posed the question. What's the answer?
Well, it's an interesting point. If you compare it to Delta, for example, United's a much more unionized airline.
Right.
American's a heavily unionized airline too. There are things like that. One thing I'll tell you, you mentioned Newark. Newark's a good hub. United has a good presence in a lot of big markets. What it doesn't have is hub cities that it dominates in the way Delta dominates Atlanta, in the way American dominates Charlotte and Philadelphia, and those are the places where as an airline you tend to run up the score and then just kind of hope to hold serve in the more competitive places like Chicago where United's head-to-head against American.
One quick thing to keep in mind, this board battle, it's intriguing in part because Munoz was on the Continental board with Bethune. I mean, there's a lot of
It feels like there's a lot of old scores here, a lot of old animosity.
Our audience, to a large extent, if you're not an investor, you're looking at this saying, can United get its act together? And that's what Oscar Munoz is hoping to do. He's much better with labor relations than Jeff Smisek. They've ratified a few contracts. They did the pilots not too long ago. Yes, the Teamsters were protesting today. Oscar Munoz, will he have a chance to implement his plan? Or does this distract him from that? Because at the end of the day, that's really what people who fly United are most interested in.
All right, this is, just quickly, this is the only industry, unless you guys can think of another one, where you can be lousy and do fine. Because 40 airports have a monopoly on out of the top 100. If you live in New Jersey, you are pretty much stuck with United.
But Brian, we're in
if you live in Miami, you're pretty much stuck with American.
Right now, we're in the salad days for this industry. It's not going to last for long.
I'm not talking about the profitability, you're right, I'm talking about the operations.
Right, but when the profitability goes away, that's when you find out who's got the management team that works.
Got it, Phil. Thank you.